and introduce and speak with our friends from Egypt. It was an absolute highlight of the year for me and Chris and Adelina, all who had a chance to go visit that wonderful country. So we did a quick introduction. Before we get started, I thought I would show just a few pictures of what happened during that to set context and give you guys a feeling for the energy and scope of what we were able to accomplish over just a few days with Fund Manager. So before we go ahead and turn it over to our speakers, let me just show that real quick. And here we go. So our experience from the Egyptian VC ecosystem. So we were invited there as guests of Falak Startups, and let me go ahead and stop sharing and turn over the stage to our friends Ahmed and Nihal. Let me start off. Not a lot of people know about the Egyptian ecosystem and what's happening there with startups. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background on what's happening in Egypt.
Great. First of all, thank you all for having us. It's a pleasure being with you today and to somehow celebrate what we have all did together in the last month. This for us has been as well a highlight to the year, and coming from us, some people that are exposed to so many modalities of interacting with this ecosystem, whether in programs or in competitions and whatnot. We had really experienced a completely novel experience, if you will, and this has been an educative experience for us before the attendees as well. And we've heard and we've read raving reviews about the training, and everyone is really happy about it. Even the partners. This was all also not to forget. This was all made possible in Egypt. Through our partners at EBRD, so they as well have learned so many things about the ecosystem, having been engaged in our experience together. So again, thank you very much, the team. Thank you, Chris, Rick, and Adelina. Thank you everyone for the amazing experience. Moving to how the ecosystem is developing in Egypt, I myself would like to always start with this story. Is that I have tried to build a company in Egypt, an e-commerce business back in Egypt when it wasn't really that cool back in the day, and it was nearly impossible to find funding. I remember there was only one or at most two VCs operating in Egypt, investing in late stage, and it was sort of impossible to have any sort of support coming towards startups, especially in the innovative and tech space. Today, we're seeing a completely different story. We're seeing funding everywhere, we're seeing people trying to come up with programs, acceleration and incubation programs, and I think that's amazing on my end, because I get to help people that are starting off where I had started, wishing that I would have this kind of support, and now I see people achieving their dreams and achieving their aspirations through the platforms that are made possible. And I'm happy that we are part of this as well, and I'm happy that we got to work with people like you to develop this even more and develop the VC talents more and more so that they can help bring in the funds and channel it to the startups as well. And I myself, and I think I think the team at Falak here also appreciates the highlight of or the focus that strategy tools have on the value creation part or the back end part of the fund, because in a developing ecosystem like ours, one that has started to kick off in the last couple of years, we still don't appreciate or don't have that much focus on this back end, because we are still in the fundraising and deployment phases, and that's a very interesting part, and that's a very important part to get people to focus on and have this in mind before they get go and strategize properly. So we appreciate very much, along with the amazing times that we had together. And also it's worth mentioning that right after the training and right after everyone went back to their home country, we had immediately started together to develop plans for this year 2023 and the others, and we are very proud and passionate and very excited about our work with strategy tools. In fact, we are basing a lot of our strategy going forward with the programs around what we can do together, developing the startup and introducing more programs and introducing the different programs that you offer at strategy tools as well. So I think it's a long term partnership. I think it's a win for us. This was the highlight of 2022. I really thank you for everything, including the experience and including the good times and the good people you are, and the wealth of knowledge that you brought into this country, and what you have done honestly is far more than just a training program. It was an amazing experience that brought in people together. They got to work together for a couple of days, got to create very strong bonds. And I don't know what more to say about this. I could go on for forever talking about those couple of days.
Well, we've got 25 minutes, so we can go easily.
I'll leave it up.
Let me back up a little bit. First off, I'm going to pick up on one of the phrases you said, that Egypt as an ecosystem has gone from sort of a dearth of funding when you were as a startup trying to get things going into funding everywhere. You don't hear that phrase very often, but I did get the sense that there's a lot of individuals and a lot of different groups pulling things together. Can you tell us about Falak Startups and kind of your role in what you do and your role within the ecosystem overall?
All right, I'll leave that to the oldest member of the Falak family here to tell you the story now, and I'll shut up for a bit now. I've talked too much.
Sure. So Falak started almost 5 years ago. We started purely as an accelerator, investing in tech startups and empowering Egyptian entrepreneurs to build and scale their tech startups. We're sector agnostic. We have been offering the best and the fair model in the market when it comes to ticket size and equity, and delivering a strong program to the startups as well. By the time we have developed, we have seen the gaps in the market, and we have seen what gaps or challenges entrepreneurs face, and one of them is funding post-acceleration programs. That's why we have shifted our model, and we have now became early stage VC. We're acting like an angel investor, and we co-invest also in tech startups with other investors in Egypt and the region as well. So we always work on providing the best experience for our entrepreneurs, not only funding and how we can support them to let them grow the right way and scale exponentially. And we always try to educate the ecosystem, not only our startups, but the whole ecosystem. We do lots of seminars and panels and open it for the public. And we also try to educate the ecosystem in terms of anything related to our social media posts. We'd like to educate the ecosystem to make sure we have a strong pipeline of startups. And that's why we thought about it. We, as anyone else in the ecosystem, we are focusing on the entrepreneurs, and no one is focusing on the investors side or educating angel investors, accelerator managers, and so on. That's why when Ahmed came across strategy tools and know about your work and the fund manager simulation, we've decided that we'd like to bring this experience to Egypt. We've been talking for a couple of months, and we're so glad that we made it.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's super interesting that as the ecosystem has started to mature, as more people have come in, that you've shifted from a pure accelerator into more of a venture fund and supplying sort of the post-acceleration funding overall as a different structure. And so you don't often see that. I think you're a really interesting case study for a lot of the developing economies that we deal with overall. And you've taken on this role of education for the ecosystem as well. So tell us a little bit about the program itself, who you invited, why you invited these participants, and what outcomes you expected to see.
Sure. So we've invited everyone in Egypt, all angel investors networks, all the VCs operating in Egypt, also and the region. We had some of them who came from Saudi, UAE, and even one from the States. So we had 50 plus participants, all the VCs in Egypt and some of the region. They all came for a 2-day masterclass. Has been great, to be honest. We started off with some theoretical parts to be able to explain some terms by Chris and Vic. Then we moved to the room when we had 2 groups, each group 20 plus participants. The boards were there, everything worked perfectly, and then they started to play. I'm not going to say play, but to build and close the VC fund in a fun way. We have heard very, very, very good feedback from everyone. They really enjoyed it. They learned a lot from these 2 days. The power of networking were great. They met all the VCs in Egypt and some of the region, and even you guys. So you have the international exposure and knowledge to be shared with the region. And this is it's a new thing to the ecosystem here in Egypt, how to generate successful exits, return profits or to the LPs, and make sure your fund is successful, how to choose the best startups, how to decide which startups to invest in. All of these things were different because you had an international exposure and perspective, and you delivered things differently that added a lot to the knowledge.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I want to add is surprisingly, when we opened the application, the first registration that happens to attend the program was from a startup founder. Yeah, and that was interesting because we thought and we saw great interest from different players and I mean players in the market, not players in the game or in the simulation. Excuse me for that. And that was interesting because everything we've seen interest from starting from a startup founder up until PEs and big investment banks and funds. I think Rick and Chris and Adelina, you have met those people. You know how far in the investment scene the profiles went. So that was interesting, and everyone got to mingle and got to network, got to work for the 2 days together. So you had we even had students in the simulation as well, international students to be precise as well. So that was very, very interesting to see the full spectrum of different experiences and different walks of life to be in that particular room and going through this experience. And this, in a way, made a platform for everyone to share this entire experience and have them know, like this founder now knows why those VCs ask those questions, why are they pursuing certain things, why are they acting the way they are, and how they perceive things the way they perceive. So that, in a way, made people have a similar grounds and have similar knowledge of each other's shoes. It gets you to become or to walk a mile in everyone's in the other person's shoes. So that was a great experience. I think we have a couple of questions here. Maybe they're...
We do. In fact, thank you. I wanted to get to those. Let me start at the beginning then. Victor, who actually is our expert in ecosystem development. What's the hardest challenge? What is your largest success?
The hardest challenge. I have a lot.
I know. Those are hard.
So, tech talent is a challenge here in Egypt. So they prefer to work abroad because they get paid.
I think they mean around the simulation, putting together simulation. Am I right? Victor, can you please just elaborate? Is it our challenges in general, or is that related to...
Yeah, I was interested in the challenge within the program, or the challenge that you faced during the running of the simulation. Did something occur that you said, okay, this we didn't anticipate, or we came over it, and what happened then?
I think one thing is we had after we were done with the simulation, we had to sit down together, we had a meeting, and we went through everything that went right and everything that went wrong. And I think one main thing was it all had to do with the registration process. So I think what is best is, because what we experienced was complete, or it was like a bell curve, right? So there was a couple of people interested, and then there was a lot of people interested, and then everyone did not confirm, and then towards the end, everyone is going crazy for it. Like everyone wants to register and be part of it in the 2 days before. So I think one thing should be addressed is a proper deadline before, a couple of days before the program. And I think everything else went smoothly, except for the fact that we had a challenge picking the time that works for everyone. And then when we got to pick a time, I'm glad that it didn't represent a big problem, but it was at the same time as the World Cup matches. So some people were going back and forth between the rooms to watch the World Cup games. I think proper planning that goes a long way, and then picking up the right time and just having a good, effective, and suitable registration process in place.
Cool, thank you. Nir, I'm going to go. You had a bit of a lengthy background question. You want to ask our participants here?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Hi, Ahmed and Nihal. So my question is more of the value versus payment. I will explain. So basically, the EBRD is, of course, the help, the opportunity that they present to you, the value creation that happened because of such engagement is very clear and welcome, and we wanted more. But I ask you, looking back at the experience, understanding the value created for the participant, for you, for Falak, as a value proposition for the participants, would you think that it is worth paying for? Looking back, is it worth paying for? And would you recommend to maybe other parties, looking as an ecosystem view, to pay for such, or to embed such content within their programs or things like that? Thanks.
Absolutely. I would say we have a different experience as well. I'll explain the intricacies of it. But yes, absolutely, it's value. We had, and I think this is the first time I say this before Chris, Rick, and Adelina. I had people come to me during the simulation and telling me word for word, this has to be there is no way that this is just the price for the training. This has to be supported or sponsored? He said, and I said, yes, this is supported by EBRD, and if not, it's not, it wasn't going to be as cheap or as cost efficient. What we did was we got EBRD to sponsor the whole program and to test and to have a good indication whether people see value in this or not. We had them pay for the training as well. So everyone paid what would have been between third and half the original price of EBRD did not intervene in this program. So they paid something around $300, $500, between $300 to $600, depending on the tickets that they opted for, and some of those brought in two participants instead of one. So it was like a discount for the next person that would want to become a participant. So for us, we see a lot of value in bringing the simulation to these participants in the ecosystem. For EBRD, they also saw value. They wanted to bring to their partners that they work with. For the participants as well, they saw a lot of value, and they actually put their money where their mouths are, and they subscribed to the training. And not only that, we have brought in another partner as well, that an entity that a governmental entity that is tasked with developing the VC ecosystem in Egypt as well, and they had sponsored some of their network who are VCs or aspiring VCs to come and participate in the program by sponsoring their tickets as well. So I think everyone that we have pitched the training to and the simulation to, they also great value in it, regardless of the rate per participation or the access ticket to the simulation. I think it goes far beyond the price. Everyone saw a lot more value than what they have paid for. You can safely say that.
Excellent. So we're just about out of time. I'll ask one more question. Just one more question as sort of a parting remark. So thank you so much for the experience, for inviting us in, for me personally, and I know I can probably say for Chris and Adelina as well. It was just the highlight of the year overall. But and looks like we'll be working together for 2023. What are your goals overall for the ecosystem in 2023, and what is Strategy Tools doing in order to help out?
Great. You want to go? Okay. I think there are two folds to this question, to the answer of this question. I think they both fit within the main two propositions we have discussed, which is represented in the fund manager simulation and the scale-up simulation as well. So I think from one end you have the scale-up, where you teach the founders how to approach investors, how to come up with a business model, how to come up with an effective pitch deck, and how to communicate your proposition properly and everything. So you have this development, and then you have the other side, which we are together focusing on, which is the fund manager simulation. So you get to develop the VCs as well, and get them to have proper bonds, strong bonds together as well, so that they can work together further into syndications and investing in groups and whatnot. So you have the education on both ends, and then they meet in the middle, and then you have the acceleration in the funding rounds and the support and the value creation that is given to both ends. So everyone potentially is happy. So that's the way we see it in 2023. What we want to achieve in 2023 is to see more funds able to utilize the learnings and the development that they have received from the programs that we do together, and get to deploy properly and effectively towards the startups that have also experienced great training and development from the other simulations and other trainings, and then that would result in a much healthier and better figures. Like today, we have closed 2022 with more than $800 million in funding, up from the 300 million last year. So that we want to see more of that. We want to double down.
That's huge. Congratulations on everything you guys are doing.
It's not huge, really, compared to US and Europe.
No,
In the region, that's significantly higher.
from where you are and where you're going, that's huge. Congratulations on for everything, and thank you so much for being part of this. You've got a lot of questions in chat. If you want to take a little bit of time and answer people or reconnect, that's great. But with that, I'll pass it on. Thank you again, and I'll pass it on to Enrico.
Thank you.